I got to meet the vice president. I still can't get over this. I just got back from Washington, D.C. yesterday. I'm going to tell you the story of how and why I got to sit and chat with the Vice President of the United States. If you follow me over on Instagram, then you already know about this. I kind of did a stories behind the scenes throughout the day. So we just got to the Vice President's office. I'm currently standing on her balcony and we're about to start in like 10 minutes. It's just so surreal. Wild. But I didn't get a chance to actually tell you what I talked to the vice president about and all the details. And mainly that's because once we got to meet the vice president, we weren't allowed to have our cell phones. So her staff took all of our cell phones away. And today they emailed us photos, video footage of the conversation, of us talking to her, meeting her, all that stuff. So now I'm going to sit down and film it for YouTube. Throughout the video, I am going to share some of those pictures and the video content. Just made it in and we're about to start. But let's start from the beginning. How the heck did I make it to Washington, D.C.? At the beginning of January, I got an email from Senator Patty Murray's office. She is a senator in Washington state. She was going to be hosting a briefing on women's reproductive rights. So that ended up being on January 21st, and I was able to go with my sister. There were senators in and out of the room asking questions, showing their support for reproductive rights. Lots of topics were covered. Abortion was one of them, contraception, keeping confidentiality between a doctor and a patient. So lots of really good topics were covered. I was so honored that I got to go to the Capitol and bring my sister along. Then I came back from Washington, D.C. I was there for 24 hours. It was a really quick trip. I felt so fired up and ready to continue to empower women, to educate, all that fun stuff. Then a week goes by and I get an email from my contact at Planned Parenthood. So in case you guys didn't know, I've worked with Planned Parenthood a lot in the past. I think we've been working together for about a year, making content for TikTok, for Instagram, all about women's health. Anywhere from pap smears to STDs to advocacy to women's rights to abortion, any topic in between. I have worked with Planned Parenthood for a really long time. When I went to South by Southwest last year, I went to an event with them. So we've been working together for a really long time. So my contact at Planned Parenthood emailed me on a Thursday and she was like, hey, there might be an opportunity to do a roundtable discussion about women's reproductive rights with the Vice President, Kamala Harris. Are you interested? And I was like, what? And so I panicked. I messaged my sister and my husband. And I was like, look at this email that I got. And they were like, you need to respond. And this is huge. So I was like, of course I'm interested. I'd be honored. Like, give me more details. So then from there, she put me in contact with someone on the staff for Vice President Harris. And I started talking to her and she was like, great, I'm really glad you're interested. It's going to be January 30th. This is the details. Are you going to be able to make it? And I was like, oh my gosh, logistically, that was like 4 days away. I was like, could I make it to DC again? I had all these questions. She was like, you know what? I'll just call you on Friday. And I was like, okay. Calls me on Friday and I have this discussion with a staff member for the vice president. And she was like, okay, well, let me see if we can get you in. I will call you on Saturday. Like, oh my gosh, Saturday, Sunday, like I had to be there Monday. So it all happened so fast. Saturday night, I get the email, I'm in. And that's when everything just starts turning. We buy plane tickets, hotel, we figure out that my parents can watch my daughter. And it was crazy. It was crazy, but we made it and we made it happen and the experience was incredible. So that was a long introduction, but here we go. Let me tell you all about my experience meeting the Vice President of the United States. So I got to bring my husband to this whole experience, which was amazing. And I'm so grateful that he got to come with me. And once we were there, we met at the Vice President's office. It was incredible. This is where I'll insert video footage and pictures so that you can see.
The top opinion is that
I just wanted to say a couple words before going in because this is just so surreal. And
kind of getting emotional talking about it, but this is something I'm so passionate about, and I'm doing this for you guys and for my daughter, and I'll continue to fight for women's rights, continue to share education, empowerment, all that stuff. So I'm super excited, and stay tuned for more.
We got an opportunity to film and take pictures, make content if we wanted to, and we're told that she was probably going to be there within the next 20 to 30 minutes. So we also got to chit chat with some of the other content creators there. I didn't even share, so it wasn't just me and the vice president like chilling. Now, this was a roundtable discussion. There were 12 content creators that were invited, and she was going to be talking to all of us and listening to us and getting our questions asked, all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't just me, but there was a ton of different content creators. There was a medical student, Joelle, there was Whitney Port, there's, I'm blanking right now. Before meeting her, we did have to get COVID tested, did our COVID test, and then we went back in the room and we waited for her to get there. Went over her agenda and her plans to do a tour, and she has plans to go all over the US fighting for women's reproductive rights. She also has had the opportunity to talk to different doctors, OBGYNs, just to get their experience and how they've been feeling ever since the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So I'm like sitting there listening to her staff talk about all of these issues, and I'm like, yes, 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 like this is everything I am passionate about and everything I stand for, and why it's so important to me to continue to educate you all, but to fight for me, for my daughter. And I was just so excited. While we're sitting there chatting, she opens the door and the vice president walks in. She goes around the room, meets us all, we shake her hand, we introduce ourselves, and I was like, my heart was just racing. But she gets to me and I'm like, hi, I'm Dr. Allie, I'm an OBGYN.
Hi, I'm Dr. Allie, I'm an OBGYN.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your work. Thank you. And your courage. Thanks, really.
I was like, I was just like, oh my goodness. Like, I did get a clip sent over of that, so I'm super excited that I have that it's something that I can share with my daughter, that I met the first female vice president over a subject that I am passionate about, but over a subject that is going to also affect her life. I do get emotional when I think about that, because having her has really changed perspective, right, on a lot of things like that. It's ignited a new fire in me about the importance of the subject. So some of the information that was covered on here, just to give you all a brief overview, we talked about a lot of different subjects, obviously reproductive rights being the main one.
And then when it comes to the issue of the freedom to make decisions about one's own body. And I look at it in terms of, you know, most of my adult life, Roe v. Wade was intact. I participated in the Women's March. I would participate in all those things. We got to fight to protect Roe. We never really thought it was going to go away. You know, like we knew it was precious and it had to be defended. And then it happened just over a year ago. And now it is so obviously not only an issue about freedom and a constitutional right that has been taken, and the how dare they mess with our bodies and bodily autonomy, and having the government tell women what's in their best interest when we trust women to know what's in their own best interest. And in addition to that, we're not just talking about rights being taken away. We are looking at profound harm that since that decision came down, women are having miscarriages in toilets. Women are being denied emergency care to help with a miscarriage because the doctors, I've met them. This woman, Amanda, God love her, has had the courage to speak out openly about personal experience, who went to the emergency room to receive care, denied once, denied twice, only when she developed sepsis. Laws being proposed and passed with no exception for rape or incest. Many of you know I started my career as a prosecutor. What you may not know is one of the reasons why. When I was in high school, One of my best friends, I learned, was being molested by her stepfather. And when I learned, I said, you have to come stay with us. I called my mother. My mother said, yes, she has to come stay with us, and she did. And I decided I wanted to do the work of protecting women and children in particular from violence. The idea that these so-called leaders are passing laws that make no exception even for rape or incest, think about that. So you're saying to a survivor of a crime of violence to their body, a violation of their body, that, and you don't have the right to make a decision about what happens to your body next. It's immoral. And so one of the reasons among the many that I was so excited to see you all, and I thank you for being here, we need, and all those people who are silently suffering need your help. To one, help people understand just what's at stake here in terms of democracy and fundamental freedoms and rights being taken, but also the harm.
We also talked about maternal mortality, maternal deserts, postpartum care, maternity leave, paid maternity leave. So it was also, I like recently postpartum, so I'm like, yes, let's keep this conversation going.
Issued a national challenge that states would allow Medicaid to cover postpartum care from 2 months to 12 months. Now 43 states have done it. But this is what the status quo was. Lots at stake. And we just have to remind people. And again, I think that when people really understand what's happening, they care and they do understand.
But essentially what the vice president was saying too is that in her tour that she started and in the states that she's been to, whenever the subject of reproductive rights gets brought up, whether she's in a blue state or a red state, it doesn't matter. The overwhelming majority of people feel that the government should not be the ones making decisions about a woman's body. And that gives me a lot of encouragement, because a lot of the times all we hear is the negativity and negativity and negativity on the news. But to hear that overall, when they've polled people and polled communities, deep down, the grand majority of the people of the United States agree that the government should not be entering a doctor-patient room, should not be making these decisions for a human being, but that a woman should be the one to get to decide what to do. So I have a list of some of the states where she has been to and polled. So from Kansas to California to Kentucky, in Michigan, Montana, Vermont, and Ohio, whenever the issue of reproductive freedom has been on the ballot since the Dobbs decision, reproductive freedom wins every time. So that gives me hope. Another thing I want to be better about this year too is talking about my personal experience as an OBGYN, of how I see that abortion is healthcare and how it has impacted my practice personally since the overturning, or since the Dobbs decision to overturn Roe. I have personally felt like I cannot practice the medicine I am so passionate about because I have to practice in fear. Now, I took a Hippocratic oath, right, to do no harm. And the medicine that I practice is an ethical medicine where my job as a physician is to do my best to make a diagnosis and treat my patient, all the while explaining the diagnosis at length to the patient and the family and answering all of their questions and giving them all of their options, all judgment-free, all full of love and empathy, and giving them the tools they might need and the information they might need to make the decision that works for them. Free of judgment, only love. And since the Dobbs decision, I feel like I can't fully present all of those options. And I don't even live in a state that's, complete total abortion ban. Might be getting there, but what I'm saying is, even at this level, I'm fearful. Who can I trust? Is anyone going to turn me in if I even mention abortion as an option? Or tell my patient that, hey, you have to travel to another state to get this care, I'll do my best to find a physician there. Like, how is that medicine? Think about the fact that in these women that live in Texas, for example, who have a life-threatening pregnancy, because that, unfortunately, the reality sometimes. Even in pregnancies that are planned and prayed for and desired, there are conditions where it could put the risk, or it could put at risk the life of the mother and also cause a lot of suffering for the baby. And these are not easy decisions. These are not easy conversations. But as a physician, if I lived in Texas and I was not able to offer the empathy, the discussion to my patients, I couldn't practice there. I could not practice there. This is not what I signed up for. It's important. And again, and I talked about this with the vice president, because I got to speak to her and share a little bit. And I told her, I was like, on Instagram and on TikTok, I've shared stories of patients who are in situations that you could not imagine, who are faced with really difficult decisions. And I've had people message me that were like, wow, I, for my entire life, was pro-life, but I never thought of it that way. I never thought someone could find themselves in that situation.
I want this to be a two-way conversation going forward. So no, I really actively welcome and invite you guys to give me a sense of what you're hearing, how you think it's, playing out, any advice and thoughts you have. Because we gotta build community right now.
As an OBGYN, what I've encountered with my followers is I share a story about a patient or a personal encounter I had, and they comment or they message me personally and they're like, hey, I had no idea people were actually going through that. And you just opened my mind to, kind of like you were mentioning before, they were a pro-life and they were like, wow, like that story touched me. I never thought of it that way. So I think that's why the importance of me personally getting my patients' stories out there is what's being, making such a huge impact and really like opening people's eyes.
And I think that's why it's important to put this information out there, because a lot of people think it's just black and white and it's, this easy decision, and it's not. I need to be better about sharing these stories, because again, it's not easy, because when I hear these stories, I see faces, I see my patient, and I see how hard all of this is. So kind of got off on a tangent there, but I'm just so passionate about it, about how when these followers message me or people message me and they're like, hey, I'm pro-life, but I never viewed it in that way. I oversimplified it in my brain because I didn't see the reality of how this could affect people. Even these people and these women that are pro-life are seeing the other side. And that's important. That's why we need to keep having these conversations.
On social media, try to encourage people to get out and vote, because it really does matter who's representing us, and to continuing to share these stories, because a lot of people don't realize that women are suffering in that way just because they can't envision it happening to them. It's so very likely that it will happen to someone you know or love.
And don't just get in your little bubble of everyone that agrees with you. Hear the other side and engage in these conversations. That's what meeting the vice president really stirred up a fire in me. But like I was saying, in women who live in these total ban states or really restrictive states, having to travel to another state, think of how difficult that would be. That would be difficult for me as someone who has resources, who would have the money and the ability to do so. But think of how mentally challenging, just at a basic level, this would look like. It would mean I have to spend the money to find a flight round trip, find childcare for my daughter, take time off of work, so you're missing days of work, which means you're not getting paid. I have to be very careful on who I talk to and who I trust, and be very discreet with Uber drivers, with people at the airport, with TSA. You feel like people are judging you all of the time. Then you get on a flight, you sit next to a stranger who's asking you, oh, where are you going? And where are you vacationing? I'm just saying to kind of get in that mentality of how silly this is, to just tell someone like, oh, then just go to another state to get, whatever you care, or then you have to drive to rent a car, go to your appointment, drive to an office of a doctor you've never met, of an area you're not familiar with, stay in a hotel that you don't know the area. And a lot of the times you have to do this alone because you don't have the money to pay for someone to come with you and stay with you, 2 days, 3 days, however long you need to be there. This is only the beginning, because if they can control this, they're going to control much more. So keep all of that in mind. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because it is such a big issue that I don't think people realize how it affects everything. It also affects maternal mortality, and it affects this maternal deserts, because in the cities where maternal mortality is the highest is also the states and the cities where there's a total ban or abortion care is the most restricted. So I can talk about this forever. I'm just saying I came back so fired up about all of this. And what an honor to sit with the vice president and listen to her share her heart and her passion behind it. It just got me more fired up about this issue. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I hope you got like a little behind the scenes feel. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please do, because I feel like Instagram's the easiest one, like real time to document stuff. And I've saved it all to my highlights on Instagram. So go over there to definitely check it out. At the end, once she left, as she was walking out the door, her husband, or the second gentleman, was actually walking in, and he actually took time out of his schedule to sit with us, and we got to ask him questions about what it was like being a white man in America and supporting women's reproductive rights. And he got to share his experience with that, and he shared his experience on how he wants to sit down with other men to get them involved in the conversation, because honestly, we need more people that look like him to use their voice to make change. It was really refreshing to hear his take on everything. It was just an amazing, amazing experience. And I still just get so like in shock that this actually happened. And it got me so fired up. I'm like, now I want to make more content, whether it's just even educational and like sex ed type content, period health, whatever it may be. I don't ever want to get to a point where we're even limited on talking about that. You know what I mean? Like, I want you to be able to learn everything you need to learn about your body, to get different viewpoints, to learn about different conditions that you didn't know existed. Because when we educate ourselves, we're empowering ourselves. It makes us better people. It makes us more empathetic. It makes us understand other people's situations better, so that we can have better empathy and ultimately be kinder to one another. I hope when I edit back this video that this all makes sense. I'm hoping for more opportunities like this too in 2024. I'm going to put it out there so that our voices continue to be out there and continue to be heard. And lastly, I want to end with this. If you are not registered to vote, please, please, please register to vote. This is how we make a difference in our state level, but also as a nation. Obviously, this is an election year, so voting matters. I know sometimes it feels, again, like we're surrounded by a bunch of negativity, but it matters. So register to vote if you haven't. I will leave a link down below just to make it easier. Also, you guys, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, is just incredible. To see her passion, the way she talks, the way she carries herself, I just want to sit down and grab a coffee with her, or like a glass of wine. Like, just fun, engaging. She's great, passionate. She was sitting there and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. I'm gonna be making more content, educational content, lifestyle vlogs, stuff with my postpartum journey, everything. So we're gonna keep it fun. Obviously, it's fun over here. It's fun, it's educational, it's empowering, and I hope you guys can feel that through the camera, because I'm excited. 2024 is going to be a great year. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to use all this energy I have and continue to just live to the fullest in 2024. So I hope you all join me. I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for all of the support. everyone who follows me on Instagram, all of your DMs about just the encouragement of me going to DC. And when I shared that story of meeting the vice president, it means a lot to me. I'm just so excited and fired up. Go out there, use your voices, engage in difficult conversations if you have to. I believe in you. I love you guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.